Here we are again talking about coaching, and I'm back in the hood and here with Yannick and Sevage. Good to see you, boys.
Hey, Nikki, good to have you back. Back in Portugal, is it?
Back in Portugal for a while, yeah. So that's good. Good to be back. So our first question today is going to be any tips for my coaching, for having my first coaching website? So yeah, I think that's a
Yes,
fun one.
I think it comes up often, right? Especially, obviously, for coaches who are starting out, but also for coaches who have been coaching in-house in organizations and they're now stepping out of it, and they had good coaching work through an agency, but now they're stepping out of BetterUp or Ezra or CoachUp or something like that, and needing to build their own business, which usually comes with a website. So I like that question because it seems like there's obvious answers, like everybody must have a website, right? And I've heard that before. But one of the most powerful things I've heard from somebody is, I don't do websites. I do conversations. Why don't we meet? I'm free on Tuesday. How about you? And I love that, because what a website is supposed to do, and this really kind of changed my mind on websites. I used to think this is like a sophisticated business card. But really, even a sophisticated business card, what it's supposed to do is start a conversation, right? It's supposed to open the door. Or is it? Think about, what do you want this website to do? For me, it really helped to think about this as the start of a conversation, or maybe a continuation of the conversation, depending on how somebody finds my website. Usually websites get found because somebody talks to you and then they go to your website, right? But they meet you in some way. You might get referred by someone and they want to check out your website first before they open a channel of communication, right? So either way, that what the website needs to do is something to consider. And usually what you want from a website is open a conversation, maybe create some credibility, or make somebody feel safe, or that they're at the right address, or maybe that they can afford you. So how do you need to create this website in a way that just makes it easy for that person to take the next step, which is to have a conversation with you? And that might mean there needs to be a lot of information, but there could usually be quite a simple website. I have quite a lot of information on my website because I wanted to. I'm not sure if it's the most effective. A lot of my business doesn't come via the website, right? So I can't claim that I have, mastered the ways of letting the website work for you and really dove into the SEO and have all the blog content structure. There's a way to really make a website work for you in the world of algorithms. But I think essentially, when you think about it in as simple as possible terms, it's already quite helpful, right? Don't let all of that technical stuff be in the way. Just, create a vibe, give people a bit of a sense for who you are, and make it easy for them to get into a conversation with you. That's, I think, the basics of a good website. All the other stuff, you can get very complex, very technical, and it takes years to build a website that really, really works for you. But to start out, it really doesn't need much at all. It just needs to not be in the way of that person wanting to have a conversation with you. I'll pause there.
Yeah, I think you've pretty much summed it up.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Tips on creating the first website. I think it's just looking at. I would always bring the question back to where are you right now in your work? Because like you said, I think it takes potentially a lot of money, and you need to have an understanding of what does really go there. What makes a website really good? In the beginning, I think in your first year as a coach, when people ask about your website, it's probably much better to just say, well, hey, let's sit down, let's have a conversation. Because usually it's a way for people to say, well, I want to know more about your work, right? I think at a later stage of someone's business, I think your website can be really useful, because then we can share more stories about the people we've worked with, obviously doing that in a way where we protect their identity and keep things confidential. But whenever I use a website, I share it with people that are interested in my work, and I say, well, go through these 10, 20 different stories of people that have worked with me, read some of these, read some of these stories, watch some of these videos, and then see what is possible for you. But again, it's just an indication of what is possible, and it's not so much, well, I personally don't like putting a buy button there. Again, nothing wrong with it. I bought a $10,000 program from a website, even in a $15,000 program, but that came really from coaches that were very advanced in their journey.
Yeah, you already know what you're buying when you get there.
Yeah, for example, if you look at one of the coaches that did that, he has hundreds of videos on YouTube, and there are a lot of videos of him coaching, and there's a lot of articles there.
So you already had the relationship. You just needed to find the product and make it easy to sign up, which goes to show that a lot of this is relationship building, and the website can be part of the relationship building. But I think there needs to be a narrative. If somebody asks for your website and he says, yeah, maybe we have a conversation, maybe it's not such a good look. But, if you say, I don't do a website because, if you're confident about not having a website, then that's, people get that. But then most people would have a website. But the website really doesn't need much. I mean, it can just have your contact information, a button to book a consultation, maybe some testimonials if you wanted to. A lot of coaches, they really struggle with, my website really needs to sum up everything about me, and I need to be super clear on my niche. And then you need to have decided on a niche, which is really difficult for many coaches who are starting out, right? But what's wrong with having a website where it's just an image of you? Hey, thanks for being here. Means you're interested in exploring, maybe doing something together. Here is an easy thing of how we could do that, right? If you know something about the kind of people that you like to work with or the sort of thing, it can be quite general. Like I said, it just needs to not be in the way of that person then taking the next step. And it's very, very rare that somebody finds a coach randomly and they find their website and then they book a session in. At least that's my experience. You might have different experiences.
Yeah, just to add to that, right? For me personally, I think even right now, if you look me up, there's no website. We've been working on a new website for a while. But I've had a lot of coaches that I've mentored that come to me and say, actually, I'm getting people that are reaching out to me through the website. So even though, and these are people that just once a week put an article there, they're not like posting 5 times a week on their website. So I do think, because from time to time, people look things up, right? So she's, for example, a confidence coach, and people look it up, and this is one of the ways they find her. So I do think we live in a time where, people sometimes look up like, I want to lose weight. Or, of course, there are the big guys that are advertising. They're taking over the first few pages. I think if you do this long...
But who goes to page 5?
Yeah.
I don't think... it's very rare that I've been on page 5 on Google.
Yeah. But I think, this is a good question. I think we could potentially have another episode where we talk about a more advanced website, because I've helped quite a few people create advanced websites, and that's where you really look at the customer journey, right?
Very different conversation.
Yeah.
So let's frame this as starting out coaches, because it's like tips for my first website or tips for a website that converts clients consistently at scale. It's a very different conversation. Super curious what you think, Nikki, though, because you said you used to build websites, so maybe there's a technical component that we can learn from.
For sure. Oh my God, I'm just so surprised where this conversation went. Like, that's really cool, though, like in a good way. Yeah. I mean, I think, first of all, the question of like, do people need or want a website or not? So my personal experience and reflections on that are, and I think it came from, or I remember reading it in The Prosperous Coach. I forget the author, but I think he said like, I don't do websites. My own personal experience is recently someone sent me some links, some stuff to do with therapy, and a few people I got like a list of people, and some were just email addresses without websites. I instantly kind of didn't contact them. I definitely, I personally, or at least on that journey where it was a bit impersonal, where someone who, like an institution recommended some websites, I was like, okay, some contacts. I only went for the ones with websites. So for me personally, I guess, if it's not a personal word of mouth recommendation or someone you already know and has some credibility or reputation, then for me personally as a consumer, I quite like going to someone's website and sussing them out. The second point that came up, I think just now, actually, like, I haven't very actively promoted my coaching actually in the last years, because I've been busy doing other stuff and like other things happen in my life. But because I do have a website, actually quite a few people reached out to me and like via my website, and I would just get the forms coming in. So, there is a case to be made, I think, a bit like what Sevar said, like if people are looking for something specific, like a confidence coach, like even though I wasn't looking for business, maybe deliberately, I've had the opportunities through people contact me through my contact form.
And do you know how they found your website? Did you do some SEO work, for example, or do you have content on the website?
I didn't actually. So like thinking more of the technical side, I just use actually, and I'm not plugging them. I get nothing from them, but a platform called Wix. So simply, I've used them for my photography work, and I've tried other platforms before, and I just find that one quite user friendly and easy.
I like
So
building on Wix for sure. Every other
yeah,
website drove me crazy, but since I outsourced web development, I was told Wix is actually quite simplistic in terms of if you want to get to a more advanced website that converts for you, probably better to be in a different platform. But I always loved building with Wix because it was so intuitive and
it
took all of the
is.
technicality out of it. So I didn't have to that desire to throw my laptop out of the window
Of the
three
window,
times
yeah.
a day while I was building websites myself. I was like, I don't want that. And Wix didn't have that. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then somebody told me, oh, yeah, it's not actually very future proof. And I'm like,
Yeah, I agree. You know, they have some nice templates, but if we're talking about building your first website and you don't even know if you're going to be, earning money off it and you don't
then
want to
it's
make a big
perfect.
investment, then it
Yeah.
really is perfect. It's so simple and kind of things like getting a domain and everything, it kind of takes care of for you. But what was I going to say about it? Yeah, I mean, I think that's a nice thing. It's quite budget friendly to approach it like that. Obviously, if you have the budget to get someone to design it for you, then it is probably a bit more future
Yeah.
proof and you can customize it
Uh,
more.
Yes, sorry. Can I just ask because you got inquiries through your website, just building it with Wix. Did you do anything around niching, or that you can be? I'm just still wondering how can
No.
you be found because most websites, coaches just build them and then nobody really just stumbles across them. So I wonder
So
if there's something you did.
I think they have quite a good probably SEO intelligence algorithm. I don't know if that's what it's called because I literally didn't do anything, I just like things
Huh.
like the title of my website and my domain name, like yeah, maybe added a few keywords that it prompted me to add of what is my website about. But yeah, somehow randomly people have found me and
Cool.
contacted me. So that is cool. So I mean, for me, that gives it a little bit of credibility. But as to the actual contents of it, my own, from perusing other people's websites quite a lot. Like, I think I personally prefer simplicity. One thing I really dislike is when the navigation is really complex and you get sent to links and you don't even remember how did you arrive there and how do you go back to the page that actually had the content you need. So I think like my personal taste is very, very simple. And I think whatever your intention is, whether it's to sell a program or get people to contact you for consultation, that's really what I do. And I've dabbled with putting prices or not putting prices. I just give a bit of information about who I am, why I like coaching, what I like to coach on, and then say, if you want to talk more, contact me. That's my goal, is to get people to reach out.
That's really good advice, I think.
Yeah, and just before we wrap up this conversation, I think another way is just to use social media as a website. Right? Nowadays, often you hear when I go to an event, instead of people sharing their website, everybody's like, "Here's my LinkedIn." And for me personally, it's always been Facebook, but I know some coaches use Instagram. So you can really position that as your website. And there's usually a space where you can describe what you do. There's usually, you can add some of your experience, you can add your background, you can add the stuff that you've done in terms of studies, right? So I think for people that are listening to this and like, you know what, I do want to have something, you can really use one of the social media. It doesn't have to be LinkedIn. A lot of times people just think it has to be LinkedIn for a professional, but there's plenty of times where I said to people like, well, instead of a website, you can follow me on Facebook, and then they connect with me and they follow some of my content.
Isn't Facebook dead?
Not
Yeah.
for Sevas.
Well, I guess it depends on your audience, right?
Yeah, I think it depends on your audience. Personally, I'm switching more and more towards Instagram and YouTube. I mean, I look at what I really enjoy. I don't enjoy being that much anymore on Facebook, and I think there is a bit of a shift. But
Yeah.
but I think you're just using whatever platform it is.
Well, it still underlines the point, right? You're building a relationship, you're building
Yeah.
trust, you want to build a connection, right? And you also want to have a profile, like a business card of sorts, that you can give someone and they open the door. And I think whatever platform you choose, yes, it helps to have an understanding of who you'd like to connect with. That always helps. But even if that's not quite clear, you can put something generic and still like focus on the conversations. What place does the website take in that pathway to having a conversation with you? Is that a continuation of a conversation and supposed to build some credibility and book an, consultation? Or is this a first point of contact that opens the door to you? So I think when people think about what place they want the website to take, what place do they need it to take, then I think a lot of questions get answered along the way of what kind of website does it need and what needs to be on there.
Yeah.
Cool. Shall we leave that here? Nice one. Always looking for good examples of websites. So if you know any, feel free to share. And I know this is possibly opening the door into a lot of promotion, but that's just a byproduct of it. And if it's good promotion, it's really helpful to look at websites, and there can be very different websites that people resonate with. More pictures, more text, less text. At a moment where I thought, oh my God, I need more imagery on my website, somebody told me, oh, I really appreciated your website because there was a lot of text and there was a lot of substance and a lot of depth. And I'm like, different horses for courses, they say.
Sweet.
Cool. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being with us today. I appreciate your commitment to learning and growing as a coach. Just a few things before you go. First of all, we're doing this for you, so if there's anything you'd like us to talk about, do send us a question. Secondly, we're not doing this for profit, so we rely on your support to help us reach as many coaches as we can. So if you can send this episode to a friend or tell a fellow coach about what we're doing here, maybe you can subscribe or leave us a review, or even support us on Patreon. That would be amazing. And lastly, you can find us across all major platforms. So whether you like to watch or you like to listen or you like to download episodes and listen to it in your car while you're driving through somewhere with no internet, you can do so too. And that's it from us. Thank you, and I hope to see you next time.